All right. So I can get going and do the introduction real quick. First of all, thank you so much for everyone that's joined here today. If it's my first time speaking with you, my name is Travis Marks. I joined the pension boards back in November of last year as the director of Generations University. A big part of that is member education and financial wellness is a big part of that. Thank you for joining today. The monthly Power Up Your Finances presentation by EY. Today's topic is 8 smart ways to reduce your debt. And so EY is going to go through that. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put those in the chat. And at the end, we'll open up the call for questions as well. But I'd ask if you could just mute your line for the time being, and then we'll address any questions at the end of the presentation. So please take it away.
All right, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us at the PBUCC webinar here on 8 smart ways to reduce your debt. My name is Jeff James, and I am one of the senior planners with EY, and I am excited to be here to talk to you about this topic. It's a great topic. It's going to be, I think, a good introduction form for us to carry out longer and more in-depth conversations down the road. A couple of things I'd like to point out about us here at EY. First is the phone number to get us at any point in time during the hours is going to be the 877-927-1047. That will get you through to a planner, and we'll work with you, talk with you, or if necessary, schedule time to fit both of our schedules. The Navigate site, which I'll go to in a minute, is pbucc.eynavigate.com. This is one of the 3 ways to utilize the EY assistance that we offer you, that PBUCC has brought us into the fold to help you guys out with. One of the big things that concerns a lot of people is, do we sell you anything? Are we on commission? Or, do we have any quote unquote skin in the game? We do not. Our job is to help you learn in whatever area of financial planning that you're calling on, to educate yourself to make the best decisions that you can at that moment, and then through the years update those decisions to fit as your changing needs. Example, a young person, 22, 23 years old, 25, starting out, has different needs than a 35, 40-year-old and a 55, 60-year-old and a 70-year-old. So we're here to talk with you through all that time. We are not a fiduciary. That being said, because we don't sell anything, because our focus is on education, we are going to be able to provide you the best service that you can, again, at no cost, and something that we think will help you in your financial future. So we're going to go through this PowerPoint, and the first thing I want to talk about is the EY tools. As I said, I'm a planner, and you can see one of the first things on there, the screen with the lovely young lady's face on there, says the EY Navigate Planner line. You can see the number that I just provided you, and the hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as I said, unbiased, confidential financial guidance to you at no cost. So we're here to help you, not to sell anything to you, just to work with you. The EY Navigate digital site is the online computer site. The address is the pbucc.eynavigate that you are looking at on the middle of the screen there. On here are 3 sections. One is going to be goals and finances. This is where you can do certain actual goals like budgeting, cash flow, retirement, estate planning, paying off student loans, things like that. The second part is the Learning Center. And this is where we have articles that you can read through. There'll be specific topic oriented, like buying a home or starting out or relocating. or they can be the next level up, which is a topic level. And that would be like investing or retirement, where we are going to have multiple individual articles within that topic. There's also on that learning page calculators that you can use. There's other tools that are in there, such as short 3 to 5 minute videos. There's a glossary, and any webinars that are taped that are historically kept will be on that Learning Center page as well. And then the last one is work with the planner. When you have a planner assigned to you, and that's automatically done when you sign up on Navigate, you'll see a little bio. For most of us, you'll also see a picture of us. And there will be, again, the phone numbers and every way to contact us. Plus, there's a link on there where you can message us. It's not an immediate messaging. It's a way to send a message, say, hey, can you give me a call? Or I'd like to talk to you. Can we find some time to talk? And we can work back and forth through the messaging to do that. The EY Navigate Digital also has an app that you can download. The Google Store is where you can get it. This is to help you on the go. When you're not in your computer, you got your phone and you want to look up something on the Navigate site, then you can use that. The EY Navigate Group Learning is what we're doing now. These webinars that we have for you, and we'll go over whatever topic it is that's the choice for that particular month or whenever they're updated. Next, we are going to look at a personal action plan. And this is probably one of the more important things to do, not just with finances, but with anything. One of the things I'm going to talk about is for you guys to take a look at creating a personal action plan that's germane to you, that fits your needs. Not everybody's going to be the same. There's not cookie cutter out there. So the idea would be, with your action plan, let's look at what are my priorities. Where do I want to talk about finances? Does it retirement? Is it saving for kids' college? Is it debt management? Is it cash flow, budgeting? Any of these things. So you put these down in there, and then you write them down as an action step, and then you put down when you're going to do it, and then you check off when it gets done. So it could be something as simple as, let's go to the pbucc.eynavigate.com site, and let's get registered on there. That could be step number one. Step number two could be going in there and researching debt management and looking at the tools and calculators that are available. So this personal action plan is something to help you sit down and actually design a plan of action for you to be able to not just hear and learn things and take it to the next step. That's what we want to do, is take it to that next step. Next, let's talk about debt now. So there are some negative aspects to debt. They're listed there. Of course, interest is more cost to you, more money out of your pocket, as are fees. Some of the other things that can happen out there can harm your credit. If you're ready to go buy a new car or buy a home, then your credit is going to be run. And if you have bad credit, then the interest rates that you could get it at are going to be higher if you could get approved. You might have to get very high interest paying loans in order to be able to purchase that home or that automobile. There's one that's very important. I think this is one that a lot of people don't really stop to think about, and that's the bottom one: damaging relationships. Studies have shown that throughout relationships, one of the biggest, if not the biggest factor in issues is finances. So if you and your partner, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whoever, you live together, you sit down and you work together on your finances to pay the bills and such like that, you'll find that it's a bonding experience. So you guys are, communicating, and it's also going to keep things open when any financial issues arise. So just keep that in mind, that it is going to be a possibility of causing damage relationships. It could also be with family members. Let's say you need to borrow some money from your parents to pay off a debt. You needed to buy tires for your cars and you need to borrow a couple $1,000s, and there's no ever promise of when you need to pay it. And then 5, 10, 20 years down the road, they go, you never paid me that. So, you don't want anything lingering like that. And if I'm going too fast, please just kind of holler it in the chat and Dan will slow me down. All right. Step 1 in here, assessing your debt situation. So what we want to do is to take a look at what kind of debt you have. So this is step 1 in controlling debt. What kind of debt do you have? Is it credit cards? Is it a mortgage, student loans? Is it personal debts, like the example I gave, where you borrow money from your parents? What kind of debt do you have? Now, one thing to keep in mind is not all debt is bad debt. A mortgage is not a bad debt because you're getting your home by buying and paying the interest rate on the loan that you took. Buying a car, same situation. You're getting a product. What generally is a bad debt is going to be unsecured loans, credit card loans, because they generally will have much higher interest rates, and they can really affect your credit rating by piling up too many types of credit card out there that you have that you're going to be working, trying to survive off of in some cases. So step 1, again, assess your debt. Write them down. Take down each card that you have, what the balance is, what your payment is, and organize it so you can see what it is that you have. Then we're going to try to get control of your spending. One of the best ways to do this is to create a budget. And then second to that is doing a cash flow analysis. It's good to create a budget and plan that you're going to spend $500 a month on food, a couple $100 on gas for going to and from work, things like that. But doing a cash flow will show you what you're actually spending your money on. And that's equally as important as setting the budget, because you can set all the budgets you want, but if you're not hitting them, we got to know why. We got to keep an idea of what you're actually spending. Then you can revise that budget and get that spending under control. One of the big things that's been out there in the last few years for COVID, and it is in my home, is the overuse of Amazon. So I know there's a lot of people out there. There's been talk, just articles out there on in the internet that you can read about how people are really spending on these sites, Amazon being a big one, to just sit there and order. And it's easy to do because you're not having to get up and drive to Walmart or Target or any place to go buy something, which takes time and effort. You just sit there, turn on your computer, pops up, and you just go shopping, and it's easy to spend. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about when we're looking at a cash flow. Where are you actually spending the money? Okay. All right. Once we get an idea of your cash flow, so that's the first item on here. What is your monthly cash flow? What are you spending on? Let's look at who's doing the spending and then what kind of expenses are they and can they be reduced? So again, talking to that partner, if you have somebody else in the house that you're doing this, or sitting down and looking yourself in the mirror, figuratively or literally, if you want to do that, and create a plan and take a look at what you're actually doing. And don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed. We all have periods of time, especially young people, where we are trying to just get going, and we have student loans perhaps, and we have rent, or we just bought our first home. So excuse me, there's nothing to be ashamed about having debt. All of us, pretty much all of us, will have it. Even the rich people have it. They just have bigger dollars than we do. We may have a $300,000 or $400,000 home, and they have a $10 million home. So they still have that mortgage on there, but it's not a bad thing. All right. Next is going to be keeping up with the payments. So at a minimum, for every one of your debt items, your credit cards, your mortgage, the home, your cars, whatever it is, you want to make sure you don't miss those payments and make the minimum amount at the least. That way you keep your credit good. The credit bureaus will note that you are on top of things, you're paying on time the way you should, and that will help reflect in your credit history, which helps your credit scores, your credit report. Don't be late. Don't miss a payment if you can help it. There's different ways to do that. One of these on here, mark your calendar and set reminders. The other one is use auto bill pay. You can do either of those. Whatever works for you is the way to do it. If you need to set up a spot on the calendar, that's a great thing. My wife and I sit there and I pay the bills. We get paid weekly, so I know the second week of the month I'm paying all the bills because we've had 2 paychecks, and that's going to cover the monthly bills. So I have it in my calendar, so to speak, to pay on that second month at the week at the latest in the month, usually earlier if we have it. So the key is keep up with it. Try to do your best you can. If something comes up, see what you can do to contact the lender that you're going to have a problem with, and see and explain to them that there may be an issue that you want to talk to them about. But do your best to not have to pay that. Next, step number 4. How do we actually now pay down debt? And as you can see on here, paying down debt is a time-consuming process for many of us, because we'll have several credit cards, we'll have the mortgage, student loan, all of these things that come together that we have to pay month to month. What you want to do is look at a process called a snowball process. This is where you line up your different debt in a couple of different orders, and I'll go through that just have a sec. But what you're doing is you're saying, I've got this list of debts that I pay every month. I want to pay them off faster, so I'm going to do this snowball plan. And there is a way to use one of the calculators on the Navigate site that can help. But what it does is says, we're going to pay X amount of dollars to the first one. When that's paid off, we're taking that extra money that we just freed up and add it to the next debt, the next credit card. And when that one's paid off, we're going to take that debt total of the 2 and add it to the third. So imagine, if you will, that you have 3 credit cards, a car loan, and a mortgage. And you line that up with your lowest paying credit card first. Maybe you have $500 in that. And you, through your cash flow analysis, determine that you can pay an extra $100 a month on top of the minimum amount. So it may take you 6 months to pay that off, but you take that 100 on top of the minimum, we'll say $25. And we take that $125 when that is paid off, and then we add it to the next one. And maybe that's another credit card, and maybe that has like $4,000 on it. $25 that you're paying toward that. And you're going to continue to pay toward that credit card until that's paid off. And then you do the same thing to the next. Now, there's three approaches to doing this. One is straight by interest rate. You line up those debts by the highest to the lowest. So your highest paying credit card, you pay off first. The next highest paying credit card or debt is second, so on and so forth. For most of us, that means our mortgage, if we have one, is probably going to be the last one. Maybe the next to last is student loans or the purchase of a car. And the first ones are going to be your credit cards. This will help you to knock out the higher paying interest, which can save you money on interest. However, sometimes it doesn't get done quickly because maybe your credit cards, you have $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on each of them, and it can take you a couple of years to pay that off. So a second way to line up these debts is lowest to highest. So you look at what your lowest amount left is. Let's say it's $5,000 on credit card one. So that's the one you pay off first, regardless of the interest rate. And then when you get that extra money freed off after paying that, you add it to the next one and so on. Same process. The success of doing this way is a little bit better probably than doing straight finances, depending on the amount that you owe. And that's because you can see results. If you have a credit card that's $500 and it's the fourth lowest of your interest rates, but it's still always sitting there, you can make that number one and pay that off in maybe 2, 3, 4 months and get that off the books, and you can see results. And that on a personal level is always going to make it easier to keep in the plan and make it work for you. The third of the ways is to do a hybrid. So you take your lowest ones, and then once you get those out of the way, then you're setting it up for the highest interest rate and then working down to the lowest interest rate. So it's a hybrid of those. Whatever fashion that you use, creating this plan and putting it in place and making sure you keep on top of it and not taking the money that's freed to go to other places unless absolutely necessary. You just keep adding to your debt. You're going to pay it off a lot quicker than you would just trying to pay the minimum and here and there just throwing extra money at these debts when you get it. Maybe get a bonus or a pay raise or something like that. So again, it's a very easy philosophy. It's something that your EY financial planner can help you determine which plan works the best for you. All right, next, maintaining your total level of debt payments. Now, we want to get the debt paid off. So in that snowball effect, we want, once you pay off that debt, to not use that credit card again, unless there's an absolute emergency that you need to, and it's the only one that you can use. Don't use it because it gives you these specific rewards for your airlines, or I have one that goes to Barnes and Noble. So you don't want to run up the debt again on there because we're trying to get you under control with your debt and spending habits. So as you pay them off, put those aside. You hear all sorts of wild ways that people do it. There's people that put it in their refrigerator and water and freeze it so that they have to thaw out their credit card before they can use it. That's pretty dramatic, but hey, whatever is going to work for you is good. Put it. All of my extra cards are in the top of my dresser drawer, and since that dresser drawer is very scary when I open it, I just never go into it because I don't know what's going to be in there. So that helps me to not use all these extra cards. Pick out one or maybe two that you do want to use and that you can use and pay off month to month. So as I said, I have a Barnes and Noble card. I use it every once in a while. And when I get the bill, I pay it off that month. Maybe $50, $100, whatever I used it for. Maybe we went out to dinner or something and I used that just because I wanted to. So the idea is to make sure that when you pay off this debt, that you are keeping that debt off. Otherwise, trying to go through this snowball effect. You're just going to keep churning yourself over and over again to try to pay it down. The next step, step number 6. Another possibility of getting your payments lowered is to consolidate your credit cards. If you have 3 or 4 or 5 of them in there, you can transfer balances potentially to a lower paying card. If you have 5 of them, one of them's paying 15%, the rest are over 20%, then call that credit card company, tell them that you want to consolidate this, you want to pay that down into there, and they will talk to you about how much they can and will take based on your credit, and they'll talk to you about how to get it done. Some people will go out there and shop for 0 interest paying credit cards over a 2-year period and roll those into those new ones. It's a great strategy. I do know just from talking with friends that have done that occasionally they get caught up in it, and they eventually find that they're not going to be able to get that 0 interest rate. So again, the key is not just reducing your payments, but paying off that debt so you don't have any. Another option, and this can be one of those types of options that is your final choice, is maybe taking some money out of your home equity. If you have a home and you can take a borrow from that home, you can take it out. That will generally be a much lower interest rate that you're going to pay. You have the collateral of your home covering that, so you're good with that. And you can go ahead and pay all of those off and get a smaller one cost payment. Now, I know PBUCC doesn't allow you to take loans out of your account, but if your spouse has a 401k and they can borrow, that's something that you guys can also look at. It is a way to help consolidate into a lower interest rate and into a lower amount that's going to be coming out of your checking account to pay those bills. All right. Next, step number 7. Negotiate these interest rates with the lenders. They want your business. So if you call them and say, hey, I'm looking at consolidating and I'm going to get rid of yours and consolidate elsewhere, what can you do that I may consolidate with you? Because their job is to make money for their company and they want to get that interest from you. That's their business, is making money off the interest rates that they charge. So they may be able to negotiate that. If you have a track record of having a consistent long-term payment history with them, and for some reason they raise the rates, you can call them up and say, hey, I want to know why you did this. I've been with you for 15 years. I paid off my amounts pretty much consistently. I've carried a balance, for a few months here and there. So you are making some money. Can you drop that back down from 23 to 18, whatever it may be? So it doesn't hurt to ask. It always keep in mind, it doesn't hurt to ask. They are in the business not of losing that loan and then having to go through potential collections and things like that, which they just cost them more money, and then possibly having the loan go to collections. And they would rather work with you and make sure that they can still have your business and potentially not just now, but long-term keep you as a client. Check your credit scores. That's very important. You can go in and check on your credit scores different ways. There's a site called annualcreditreport.com that you can go to and get a copy of your report. You are by law allowed to get one report per company. Equifax Experian, and I can't think of the other right off the top of my head. I think I have in my notes later if somebody wants to know. But you can get one from each of these a year. So since there's 3 of them, every 4 months, get one from each of the different providers, each of those different credit companies. And once a year, you get it. You make sure that your record is correct, that there's nothing on there that's not you. That can happen. That is not dated and should be gone, or that just is wrong and you need to dispute it. So you want to keep on top of that. Why is this important? Again, buying that home, buying that car, your credit report comes into play. So you want to make sure that you are on top of that. And since it's free from each of the 3 different providers, you can go there and do that. The site that I gave you, annualcreditreport.com, they have everything in a one site, online site that you can go to and use to see. You won't see your actual scores. You'll see like you'll see the scores, but not the report, the full report itself. So you'll just need to make sure that you go to that and you can get an idea of where you stand and then get the full report from the different credit agencies. And then finally, the last is monitor and update your plan. So this is not just for your budgeting, your cash flow, paying off your debt. This is for any plan, especially financial, that you're going to do. It could be as simple as you're young, you just got married, and you have a child on the way, and you want to start saving for college for that child. And you put a plan in place where you're putting $25 every month into a 529 plan, for example. And you keep an eye on that, see how it's progressing. And maybe later on, a few years, you got some pay raises, you can update that plan by adding more. Or you have another child, so now you need to create another plan for that child. But for this, we want to keep on top of what we're trying to do, which is to get you debt free. And again, 2 of the best things to do is create a budget and then take a cash flow analysis. The cash flow analysis is actually a formal report that we can do with you, or you can use the cash flow tool that's on the Navigate site. You can link up your bank account, create your budget, and then it will show your spending month to month, quarter to quarter, and then you can tailor and go in and make the adjustments if they come in incorrect to reflect the correct budget categories that you want to use. So you want to stay on top of this. Make sure that you're not just putting the plan in place, but you're understanding its impact on you and what it can do to help you, but also to keep carrying through with the plan through the end of it, because a mortgage may be 20 years down the road, and you know that that's something that's going to be a long-term debt that you have when your focus is paying off the credit cards and the car and getting the kids to college. So updating these plans, monitoring them as they go, adjusting them as you do, changing your priorities is extremely important. And I'd like to take a moment here just to talk about prioritization. What you want to do is, with a significant other, if you have one, or just yourself, sit down and list the things that you want to do. Is the first thing paying off debt? Or is it creating an emergency fund? Or is it starting to save for that purchase of a home? Or is it going to be retirement? One of the examples I talk to people about many times, that the first priority, and for many people, is setting up an emergency fund. And this you can use not just for major emergencies, but in place of using credit cards. So you have money set aside that are your emergency funds that you're going to use, that maybe you had to use a credit card, but you now are going to take this money out of that emergency fund to pay for the car repairs. You took it in to get an oil change, and the guy calls back and says, we have transmission problems, and it's $3,000, not $500 for new tires. Oh, and by the way, it's $500 on top of the $3,000 because you do still need the new tires. So you put this on the credit card, but you have the emergency fund that you've built up to pay that credit card off when the bill comes in. So it's used for many purposes. So when you create an emergency fund, and that's kind of your first focus, when you get to the amount that makes sense for you, and for a married couple, that's usually about 6 to 9 months of paying bills, and for a single person, 3 to 6 months for a married couple and 6 to 9 months for a single individual. It's designed while you're working to get you through any down periods where you don't work and don't have income. But it can also be used for these other things I talked about, repairing your car, like I said. Once you get that total, then that can drop to the bottom of your list, right? It's no longer priority number one. So when I say that you should be adjusting and monitoring your plan, that includes your list of priorities. You know, maybe you hadn't met that wonderful person when you created this plan first 3 years ago, and then you just kind of forgot about it through life, and then you go in there and you're getting married, and so now you got to go in there and change your priorities. What are we saving for? Are we saving for the wedding? Are we saving for a home? Where does that fall in our priorities? All of a sudden you're pregnant. You want to find out where that list of priorities is going to be. So just keep that in mind as you monitor and update everything. All right, and that leads us directly into debt prevention. The very first thing, create an emergency fund. Use a budgeting app. I've been saying the budgeting app on the site a couple of 3 times. Your EY financial planner will happily help you work through and create a budget and get you squared away with the use of it. And then it's up to you to monitor it. And we can make appointments with you to periodically, every 6 months or once a year, talk to you about this or anything else. Using cash and budgeting envelopes, that's a type of thing where you're saving for specific kinds of purchases. Like you want to, I've been trying for the last 10 years to buy a 75-inch big screen TV, but things kept coming up like grandchildren that I end up having to spend money on, which is a wonderful thing, but I don't have my TV. So what I have been doing is I have extra money put aside that can be used to buy that. So I may put it on my credit card at the purchase because it makes it easy, but I have the money to pay it down. So I'm saving this money. It may not be something as expensive as a $5,000 TV. It could be somebody has a very formal affair that they're coming to, and they want to buy instead of rent a nice outfit, and it's going to cost them $1,000 to go get it tailored and everything. So you set that money aside. So there's different ways that you can do this. Make sure that those credit cards are used for emergencies only and that you pay them off when they come in. And the last one on there, just use it for necessities. Next, what we want to do, sorry about that, my finger clicked on the mouse. We talked about action steps at the very beginning. So what we want to do is get you to commit to some action steps. The very bottom one may be the easiest one. Call the EY NPL, Navigate Planner line, to get started with planning. Call and talk to me or one of the other planners, and we can work with you on figuring out what makes the most sense for you in your planning. We can help you prioritize. We can talk you through the information that you need to create a budget, get you online, show you how to use the tool, show you the different videos that are on there. So there's that's probably the easiest and we'll get you started with actually building a relationship with that financial planner. Many of us have relationships that go back with members years. One of my managers has been doing this for around 20 years, and he has a couple of people he's been talking to for over 15 years. So these long-term relationships help us to help you better because you're getting to know us, and that makes you more comfortable with trusting that we're here for you. With this particular topic, C and D, analyze your cash flow, create a budget, would be very good if that's what you're concerned about. Negotiate rates with creditors, maybe a little further down the line, but you could set up maybe 3 to 5. 3 is what we ask for when we're talking to people, but it's up to you. But call the planner line first, and then we can analyze your cash flow, or you can create a statement that shows all your debts so that you can share that with us when we talk. Because one of the things that you can do on the Navigate site is upload documents. So we can't see what your 401k is invested in, so you can upload a statement. If you did an Excel spreadsheet that shows your debt payments and what you've been doing, you can upload that and we can see it and we can talk with you through it. So while you're sitting here listening to me, hopefully you've been taking some notes on some of the things that I've talked about, but the big thing I think coming out of here is to commit yourself to some action. It's great that you're listening to us, but committing to an action is going to get results. And start with us. We're happy to work with you. We're on the phones 9 to 8. So we're here to help you. All right. We're at the end here. There is a survey that's going to be sent out. You can text the WKSP PBUCC to the phone number that's on there, the 609-644-9622, and you'll get a link that says workshop evaluation and a UI Navigate digital website to start building the knowledge. PBUCC and EY appreciate your thoughts on this webinar. I know Dan and I will sit down afterwards and talk about it. So, we appreciate what your thoughts are. And if anything that comes up that you want us to talk to you about, get with us and we'll see what we can do to help you. So at the end, before I throw out the numbers again, the phone numbers and everything, any questions, Dan, that we've had that we want to address? Or
yeah, I addressed a few directly on the chat, so folks, make sure you're paying attention to that. A lot of questions on credit report, credit score, which could always be its own workshop all by itself, right? Because that's a really important and very popular topic. You heard it in the workshop. Annualcreditreport.com is a free way to get your report. Used to be that you had to pay for your score, and you can still pay for it, but now there are just numerous ways to get that for free. Any banking site that you use or credit card company that you work with probably has a button on their site, on their app, where you can see your score for free, whether it's the FICO score or one of the other versions of your score. You can check it as often as you want. So there's no impact on your score for doing that. And what I said to one person in the chat is, what I always look for is a change in the score. And then I think about why it may have changed. In the last month, what did I do? Did I open a credit card? Did I close a card? Did I build up a balance? Did I pay one off? And you'll start to learn when my score went up and I think about what I did as positive behaviors, you'll start to learn what can impact that score. And then you can model those behaviors and really set a target for that score and try to improve it even more. So I think those are the main themes on the questions, but if we have any others, come off mute, or you can type them in the chat, and we'll hold for another 30 seconds or so and see if anyone else has a question to ask. The planner line phone number is there in the chat as well, in case you need it.
I have a question. I have come to understand that if you raise your credit limits, then that hurts your credit score. Is that true?
Well, in the formula, it actually typically does the opposite. Because
Okay.
one of the variables that impacts your score, and there's 5 variables that impact your score, is they say how much you owe, but more specifically, it's the ratio of your balances versus your available credit. So if I owe $2,000 on my credit cards and I have $20,000 available, I've used 10% of my available credit, right? If I raise my credit limit on a card and now I have $2,000 that I owe, but I have $30,000 available credit, that's a smaller percentage that I've used. It's the same reason that when you close a credit card, which may be the right answer for you if you don't need it, it takes away that available credit, and temporarily it can hurt your score because that ratio goes up. You're using more of your available credit because you took some credit away. Does that make sense?
Yes, I've just noticed recently that several places have raised my credit limit without me asking. And I wondered if that was going to have a negative impact, because
No, it means you're probably doing all the right things and they like you as a customer and they're rewarding you for that. And it actually will improve, it can improve your score for that reason, because that ratio gets better.
Oh, okay.
The interesting thing though, is then you go to apply for a mortgage and they say, well, your credit's great, but you have all this available credit. We're worried you're going to use it all to buy furniture for the new house. So it helps you on the score, but it might hurt you in front of a lender, which is why I always say, do what's right for you. And hey, if they raise your credit, that means you're doing the right things. And I would just accept that and say thank you. And it probably helps your score, if anything.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, on the screen, you can see the phone number and the EY Navigate site, the pbucc.eynavigate.com, and the 877-927-1047 for the phone number. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have people here available. If you don't actually get somebody, you can leave a message and it gets into what we call our call queue, and we reach back out to you at the first time that we can. So if there's not any other questions, Dan, anybody from PBUCC?
Travis, we all set? Looking for the mute button, I know.
Yep, sorry about that. Yes, thank you so much for your time, both of you, and it was a really nice presentation. And so this recording will be sent out after today's presentation. Just look out for an email on that. And like I said, reach out to EMY if you have any questions at all about this or other topics. And yeah, just let us know, and definitely follow up with that survey, because one of the things that they ask is about other topics that you're interested in learning about. So fill that out and make your voice known. Okay. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you on the next presentation.